A very good evening. You're watching News Tonight with me, Tina Jha. In the next 30 minutes, we'll be getting you all the major news and events from across India and the world. First, the top stories. Setting a precedent, Prime Minister Narendra Modi observes day-long fast to protest against opposition disruptions in the second half of the budget session. BJP ministers and MPs follow suit in their respective constituencies. Centre tells Supreme Court that its judgment on SC/ST Act has diluted the law, claims this has caused commotion and disharmony in the country. Government asks Apex Court to review and correct its judgment. Consumer inflation falls to 4.28% for March from 4.44% in February. Industrial production shows a marginal dip, falling to 7.1% in February from 7.5% in January. Punjab government seeks conviction of its minister Navjot Singh Sidhu, tells Supreme Court to uphold Sidhu's conviction in a 1988 Patiala road rage case, says his statement denying involvement was false. And day of the wrestlers for India at the Commonwealth Games. Sushil Kumar and Rahul Avare win gold medals, Babita Kumari bags silver and Kiran takes bronze. Tejaswini Sawant wins silver in women's 50 meters prone event. India's gold medal tally swells to 14, one short of its second all-time best performance in Glasgow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today became the first PM to observe a day-long fast to protest against opposition disruptions in the second half of the budget session. Party MPs led the fast in their respective constituencies. Prime Minister and the Defence Minister also visited the Defence Expo while on fast.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi observed a day-long fast along with party MPs and leaders to protest against the washout of the second half of the budget session due to opposition-led disruptions. BJP Chief Amit Shah held a sit-in at Hubli in poll-bound Karnataka. Union Ministers Rajnath Singh, Suresh Prabhu, Uma Bharti, Vijay Goyal and Harshvardhan observed the fast at Connaught Place in central Delhi along with other party MPs.
जिस प्रकार के irresponsible behavior को आज विपक्ष ने कांग्रेस पार्टी ने पार्लियामेंट में दिखाया है, उसका प्रोटेस्ट हमने कैसे किया? हमने कहा हम इस दौरान जब पार्लियामेंट नहीं चली हम अपना भत्ता नहीं लेंगे।
जिस तरीके का दोहरा चरित्र कांग्रेस ने दिखाया है वो जनता के बीच जाना आवश्यक है और जनता को पता चले कि किस प्रकार से इस तरीके की भ्रमित राजनीति देश में की जा रही है।
Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman observed the fast in Chennai. Health Minister JP Nadda undertook the fast in Prime Minister Modi's Lok Sabha constituency Varanasi, while HRD Minister Prakash Javadekar completed the fast in Bengaluru. Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad observed the fast in Patna, while Minister of State in the PMO Jitendra Singh fasted at Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir. Culture Minister Mahesh Sharma led the fast in his Noida constituency.
जिस प्रकार से संसद का बजट सत्र एक महीना नहीं चलने दिया गया, जिसमें प्रमुख भूमिका कांग्रेस पार्टी की थी, हमें पीड़ा है। हम देश की स्थितियों की चर्चा करना चाहते थे, देश के लिए बड़े-बड़े कानून पास करना चाहते थे।
कांग्रेस की और अन्य विपक्ष के नेता जो जाकर के बाहर संसद के ये कहते हैं कि मोदी सरकार भ्रष्टाचार के विरुद्ध ईमानदारी से कार्रवाई नहीं कर रही, वही नेतागण जब संसद के भीतर पहुंचते हैं तो भ्रष्टाचार विरोधी कानून को ना आ पाए उसके लिए षड्यंत्र रचते हैं।
पूरे समय सरकार कहती रही कि हम किसी भी मुद्दे पर चर्चा को तैयार हैं, तो इसका मतलब साफ था, उनको पता है कि अगर चर्चा होती तो जनता को पता चलता सरकार की उपलब्धियां क्या है, विकास क्या है, किन अच्छे कार्यों के लिए पैसा लग रहा है। ये वो नहीं चाहते थे कि जनता को पता लगे।
Other BJP ministers and MPs also led the fast in their constituencies. The Prime Minister and Defence Minister attended the Defence Expo while on fast. The Congress termed the BJP's fast a farce.
ये सरकार में है, ये लोग सरकार में है, सरकार में होते हुए आप उपवास नहीं करते। ये किस लिए उपवास कर रहे हैं? अगर उपवास करना है तो विरोध में करो, जो समाज में जो हो रहा है उसके खिलाफ करो।
The BJP's fast comes just days after a similar exercise by the Congress nationwide against the government, blaming the government for not resolving the stalemate in Parliament. With inputs from Anu Diwan in New Delhi, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
So while on fast, the Prime Minister inaugurated the 10th edition of the Defence Expo at Tiruvadanttai near Chennai on Thursday, calling India's commitment to peace just as strong as its commitment to protecting its territory. He said the government is making all efforts to equip the defence forces. He also reiterated the government's commitment to making India a leading manufacturer of defence equipment.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Defence Expo at Tiruvadanttai near Chennai on Thursday. Stating that the defence sector is government's top priority, he said India is fast emerging as the defence manufacturing hub due to the Make in India policy. The Prime Minister also praised the role of medium and small-scale industries, saying their contribution to defence manufacturing increased 200% in the past 4 years.
We are ready to take all steps required to equip our armed forces, including through the establishment of a strategically independent defence industrial complex. It is heartening to note that the contribution of small and medium-scale sector to defence production has grown by 200% in the last 4 years.
The Prime Minister took a dig at the previous UPA government, saying its policy paralysis in the defence sector affected the country's military preparedness. Prime Minister pledged that he will not allow it to happen anymore. The Prime Minister said FDI in the defence sector had been raised from 26% to 49% under the automatic route, while in special cases, 100% FDI is also allowed. The Prime Minister said in less than 4 years, the government has granted defence exports worth $1.3 billion while building 2 defence industrial corridors.
Offset guidelines have been made flexible by allowing changes of Indian offset partners and offset components even in contracts already signed. Foreign original equipment manufacturers are not now required.
The Prime Minister also launched the Innovation for Defence Excellence scheme, under which defence innovation hubs will be set up across the country. Addressing the event, Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said 50% participants at the expo were Indian manufacturers, most of them from the MSME sector.
Because of the Make in India slogan, not only are we going to buy from the various manufacturers, but giving them a place also and an option also for them to produce in India. But even more happy augury is the fact that 50% of this export today has Indian manufacturers and largely among them small and medium industries.
500 Indian and 150 foreign companies are taking part in the 10th edition of the Defence Expo. More than 40 countries have sent their official delegation as well to participate in the 4-day-long event, which is held every 2 years. Panchanan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The centre on Thursday told the Supreme Court that its recent judgment on the SC/ST Act has diluted the provisions of the law. The government said the Apex Court's order dated March 20th had resulted in great damage to the country. In his written submission, Attorney General K.K. Venugopal said the top court's verdict, which dealt with an issue of a very sensitive nature, had caused commotion, anger, unease and a sense of disharmony in the country. The government also said the confusion created by the Apex Court's verdict may have to be corrected by reviewing the judgment and recalling the directions issued by it. The submission said through the judgment, the top court has not filled the gaps in the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act of 1989, but rather amended it through judicial legislation. He also stressed that there was separation of powers between the legislature, the executive and the judiciary, which was inviolable. The centre's submission comes 10 days after several states were rocked by violence during a Bharat Bandh led by Dalit groups on the 2nd of April, protesting against the top court's order. The government had filed a review petition in the Supreme Court on the 1st of April. On April 3rd, the Supreme Court refused to stay its order, saying it was meant to protect the innocents against the misuse of the Act. And in a fresh twist to the judges' controversy, Supreme Court Justice J. Chalameshwar on Thursday refused to hear former Minister Shanti Bhushans' plea on allocation of cases in the Apex Court. He said there is a relentless campaign against him ahead of his retirement. He also said he does not want a reversal of his order in merely 24 hours. The Supreme Court senior-most judge, Justice J. Chalameshwar, refused to order the listing of a PIL filed by former Law Minister Shanti Bhushans, seeking formulation of guidelines on allocation of cases. Expressing his anguish over affairs in the Apex Court, Justice Chalameshwar said he did not want another reversal of his order in the next 24 hours. He said he was nearing retirement and did not want to step into another controversy.
आज के सिचुएशन में रोस्टर का इशू कॉलेजियम के इशू से भिड़ चुका है. Effectively, both of them have come together, and वो इसलिए हुआ है क्योंकि अगर एक पक्ष ये कहता है कि ये डिसीजन अल्टीमेटली सिर्फ चीफ जस्टिस का हो सकता है और दूसरा पक्ष ये कह सकता है कि चीफ जस्टिस खुद ये डिसीजन कैसे ले सकते हैं कि वही सब कुछ है, तो वो जाएं किसके पास. सो ये कॉलेजियम का इशू बन जाता है.
Shanti Bhushan's son and senior lawyer Prashant Bhushan initially mentioned the matter before Justice Chalameshwar, calling it an emergency situation. After being denied urgent listing of the PIL, he rushed to Chief Justice Deepak Mishra's court and mentioned the matter for listing expeditiously. To this, the bench headed by the Chief Justice said they will look into it.
NJSC अगर even if not the old structure, the revised structure को तो थोड़ा consider करना पड़ेगा, जहाँ पे कोई check and balance का system हो, where the judicial independence is also not sacrificed at the altar of some kind of executive motive, but किसी और का भी say हो. अगर executive का ना हो, तो आप इतना तो सोचें कि civil society के लोग, do they have a say, or retired judges, who has a say? Some kind of a committee which is transparent in its process. I think that should be given a shot.
Earlier on Wednesday, a Supreme Court bench headed by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra had discarded a similar petition by Ashok Pandey. The Supreme Court ruled that the Chief Justice is first among equals and has the constitutional authority to decide allocation of cases and setting up of benches to hear them. The Apex Court also said that there cannot be a presumption of mistrust against the Chief Justice. Aruna Thakur's report for Rajya Sabha TV. Retail or consumer inflation eased in March to 4.28%, driven by lower food prices compared to 4.4% in February. Food price inflation stood at 2.8% in March against 3.26% in February. Fuel inflation eased at 5.73% in March from 6.8% in February. Retail inflation softened for the third month in a row at 4.8% after hitting a fresh high of 5.2% growth in December and 5.07% in January due to pickup in food prices and rise in domestic petrol and diesel prices. The Reserve Bank of India has already predicted inflation will cool in the financial year 2018-19. And growing at more than 7% for the third straight month, industrial growth kept up the momentum in February as well and grew at 7.1%. The IIP had risen by 7.5% in January. Manufacturing sector came in flat at 8.7% in February as compared to 8.7% in January. Capital goods output grew at 20% in February compared with 14.6% back in January. Electricity production grew 4.5% in February as compared to 7.6% growth in January. Indian economy jumped up 13 spots to move to the 130th rank in the annual index of Economic Freedom 2018, released by a top American think tank. It also ascribed government's policies for India's new rank, crediting it with reinvigorating India's foreign policy and trade.
India has jumped 13 places to take the 130th spot in this year's Index of Economic Freedom, published by the Heritage Foundation, an American think tank. In 2017, with a score of 52.6 points, India was ranked 143 among 180 countries. This year, India's economic freedom score is 54.5, earning it 130th rank in the 2018 index. Hong Kong maintained number 1 spot for the 4th year in a row, followed by Singapore, New Zealand, Switzerland, Australia and Ireland. Economic freedom was measured on the parameters of rule of law, market openness and regulatory efficiency. Corporate India also admitted that confidence in the economy has increased on account of policy measures that will boost private investment.
The Indian industry need to now start investing because given that the economic growth is going to be 7% plus, and if you are saying by 2022, 23 we're going to be at 8% and beyond, so there is going to be demand, and therefore the industry has to invest ahead of its time.
Initiatives to boost growth include fillip to manufacturing sector, concrete measures for transport and power sectors, comprehensive reforms in foreign direct investment policy, push to infrastructure development by giving infrastructure status to affordable housing, and focus on coastal connectivity. The RBI and several global multilateral agencies have also hinted at good tidings for the economy, expecting economic growth rate to strengthen with signs of revival in investment.
India's overall economic freedom score increased on the back of improvements in judicial effectiveness, business freedom, governance integrity and fiscal health. India is developing into a more open economy and is more economically free than ever before. Reporting from Delhi with camera person Shiv Kumar, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
In a surprising development, the Punjab government on Thursday sought conviction of State's Minister Navjot Singh Sidhu in a road rage case. The government's counsel told the Supreme Court that the statement given by Sidhu denying his involvement in the case was false. It has also appealed to the Apex Court to uphold Sidhu's 3-year imprisonment. The trial court had acquitted Sidhu, whereas the Punjab and Haryana High Court had convicted Sidhu for 3 years in prison. The case dates back to December 1988 when Sidhu had allegedly beaten up 65-year-old Gurnam Singh in a case of road rage resulting in his death. The Calcutta High Court on Thursday suspended the panchayat election process in West Bengal to the 16th of April. Hearing a petition filed by the Bengal unit of the BJP, the High Court issued a stay on the entire process of scrutiny and withdrawal of nomination papers underway across the state. The State Election Commission has been given time until Monday to present a detailed account of what actions it had taken to dispose of the complaints of electoral malpractices. The last date of filing nominations was the 9th of April. Candidates from the opposition parties raised allegations against the ruling party of unleashing terror and preventing rival nominees from filing their nomination papers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will take part in the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meet in London on the 19th and 20th of April. All existing 52 members, including Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahid Abbasi, will take part in the meet. The 53rd member, Maldives, had left the Commonwealth after allegations of human rights violations. This is the first Commonwealth meet after Britain exited from the European Union. This is also the first Commonwealth meet that Prime Minister Modi will attend. The theme of the summit is Common Future, during which heads of governments will discuss issues related to development and prosperity. Before the commencement of the meet, Prime Minister Modi will hold summit-level talks with British Prime Minister Theresa May. Before reaching London, Prime Minister will visit Stockholm in Sweden on the 17th of April, where he will hold the first-ever summit of India with all 5 Nordic nations: Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland and Finland.
Basically, there are 4 components to the visit. The visit to Sweden has 2 components. The bilateral part, the bilateral component, and there is also the India-Nordic Summit, which is taking place, the first India-Nordic Summit. And then in the UK, again, there is a bilateral component, the bilateral visit, which will be followed by Prime Minister's presence at the CHOGM Summit.
Because it is taking charge as the chair in office for the next 2 years from Malta. The summit is formally structured around the theme Our Common Future, and this underlies the sentiment that exists in the Commonwealth grouping that we are increasingly a tightly networked world who either prospers together or suffers together. And therefore, it is very important to work out activities for collective action.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Thursday addressed the 20th convocation of the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences in Bengaluru. Addressing the young doctors, Vice President said serving in rural areas must be mandatory for doctors. He He also said that doctors should have empathy, compassion and a caring attitude to enhance their effectiveness. He added that doctors must educate people on the adverse effects of lifestyle diseases. He further said that evolution of the medical sector calls for active involvement and participation of all stakeholders and the use of innovation to bridge intent and execution to overcome change at all its stages: prevention, diagnosis and finally treatment. ISRO has successfully placed in orbit its navigation satellite IRNSS-1L. The launch took place early Thursday morning from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Sriharikota at 4:04 a.m. The satellite, that is part of the Navik series, was injected into orbit by launch vehicle PSLV C-41.
3, 2, 1, 0, +1.
Another feather in the cap for ISRO. The Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System 1I launched successfully from Sriharikota in the morning today. The successful launch coming within 2 weeks of the launch of GSAT-6A satellite.
I am extremely happy to announce 43rd PSLV mission, this PSLV C-41, precisely injected the 8th navigation satellite of India in the Navik constellation, that is IRNSS-1I, precisely into the targeted orbit.
The IRNSS-1I, launched by PSLV C-41, was successfully placed in the designated orbit. This is the 43rd flight by the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, and the satellite is the 8th in the series to join the Navik on navigation with Indian constellation. PSLV injected the satellite into orbit 19 minutes after liftoff.
As per the data, the orbit achieved is 281.5 kilometers at perigee and 20,730 kilometers at apogee, against the specification of 284 kilometers, only 2.5 kilometers off from the perigee, where the dispersion allows up to 5 kilometers, and 70 kilometers in the apogee, where the dispersion allows up to 675 kilometers, thus once again proving the precise injection capability of the PSLV. This is the 43rd mission of the PSLV and 41st successful mission of the PSLV. And with this success, once again we have seen how precisely the PSLV is able to inject the satellite, and very reliably.
The purpose of the satellite is to create India's own navigation system, which would be quite similar to the US's GPS or Global Positioning System. ISRO says the IRNSS can provide accurate position information service to users in India as well as the region extending up to 1,500 kilometers from its boundary.
One is in the launch vehicle, we have adopted a new technology, that is friction stir welding, that is really going to improve the productivity and also enhance the payload capability of the vehicle. In the satellite area, in fact, that the participation of industry is enhanced. We are slowly moving towards both vehicle and satellite getting through industry. That is the one major achievements we had today. Now, this Navik constellation is really going to create history and going to make innovative applications to the entire community in the position-based services, especially for the underserved and unserved.
This is ISRO's third launch this year, and there are many more on the anvil.
We have a lot more missions on the anvil. For the next 8 months, we are going to have 9 missions, this one. Very, very importantly, we are going to have the GSLV Mark III D2 flight with the GSAT-29 satellite. And we are going to have the GSAT-11, is another high-throughput satellite we are going to have. Then we have housed up the PSLV missions. Then towards the end of the year, we are going to have the major mission, the Chandrayaan-2. And we have a lot more challenges to the community, to ISRO community. I'm sure that the ISRO community will rise to the occasions and achieve the missions as we desired by the country.
The IRNSS-1I mission takes place 2 weeks after the space agency launched GSAT-6A on board GSLV Mk2. Though the rocket placed GSAT-6A in orbit, ISRO lost communication with the satellite within 2 days. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
I beg your pardon. In fact, the navigation satellite was IRNSS-1I, which I mentioned as IRNSS-L1. So after ISRO's launch, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also tweeted congratulating the team. He said, and I quote, "Congratulations to our scientists on the successful launch of navigation satellite IRNSS-1I by PSLV. This success will bring benefits of our space program to the common man, proud of Team ISRO," unquote. On the second day of joint hearing of the members of the US House of Representatives, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg told US lawmakers that his data was also exposed in the Cambridge Analytica leak among 8,070,000 people. While answering questions by lawmakers, Zuckerberg said it will take some time to work through all the changes the company needs to make, and assured that Facebook is making sure that developers cannot access as much information in the future. During the congressional hearing, he also said that Facebook has not noticed a significant increase in users deactivating their accounts. He also said that Facebook is going to put a tool that at the top of everyone's app that will walk people through the settings and give them the choices on how they want their settings to be set.
I think people often ask what the difference is between surveillance and what we do, and I think that the difference is extremely clear, which is that on Facebook, you have control over your information. The content that you share, you put there. You can take it down at any time. The information that we collect, you can choose to have us not collect. You could delete any of it. And of course, you can leave Facebook if you want.
And news now from the Commonwealth Games. With 31 medals so far that include 14 golds, 7 silvers and 10 bronze, India is on the road to a record showing at the Commonwealth Games. On day 8 of the Games, the Indian contingent won 7 medals, increasing their overall medal count to 31. However, it continues to be third on the table behind Australia and England respectively. On the strength of the current showing, India is on its way to outshine its performance in the Glasgow CWG Games. At the previous edition in Glasgow in 2014, India's medal tally stood at 64. The tally included 15 golds, 30 silver and 19 bronze. India's all-time best performance was a total of 101 medals that it won back in 2010 when it hosted the Commonwealth Games. So on the 8th day of the ongoing Commonwealth Games on Australia's Gold Coast, India increased its medal tally with wrestlers Sushil Kumar and Rahul Avare winning gold medals in wrestling. Seema Punia won silver in discus throw, while Tejaswini Sawant claimed silver in 50 meters rifle prone event. Sushil Kumar won gold in the 74 kg weight category, defeating his South African rival Johannes Botha in a match that lasted for just a minute and 20 seconds. While Rahul Avare won gold in the 57 kg weight category. In the women's 53 kg category, defending champion Babita Fogart won silver, while debutant Kiran won bronze in the 76 kg category. Former world champion Tejaswini Sawant claimed silver medal in the women's 50 meters rifle prone event. In women's discus throw event, Seema Punia won another silver for India. And that's it from us in this bulletin. Thanks for your time.